What if someone could watch you and your partner have a conversation, like a regular Tuesday night conversation about who's cooking dinner, and within 5 minutes, tell you whether you two are going to make it? That sounds ridiculous. Nobody can do that. Except someone did, over and over and over again. There's a psychologist at the University of Washington named John Gottman. Starting in the 1980s, he built this apartment-like research space that people started calling the Love Lab. Couples would come in, sit on a couch, and just talk about their day, about something they disagreed on, about how they first met. And while they talked, his team was recording everything. He did this with thousands of couples over decades, and then he followed up with them years later to see who was still together and who wasn't. And what he found was wild. He could predict whether a couple would break up with over 90% accuracy. And he wasn't looking at whether they were in love. He wasn't measuring chemistry or compatibility. He was looking at 4 specific things that show up in the way people talk to each other during conflict. He called them the 4 Horsemen, like the apocalypse, because when they show up, the relationship is usually already dying. So the first horseman is criticism. And you're probably thinking, yeah, no kidding, criticizing someone is bad. But that's not exactly what this means. There's a really specific line between a complaint and a criticism, and it's thinner than you'd think. A complaint is about a thing. Hey, you said you'd take the trash out and you didn't. Fine. That's about the trash. It's contained. A criticism is about the person. Same situation, but now it sounds like this. You forgot the trash again. You never follow through on anything. I literally cannot count on you. Same trash, completely different message. Because one says, this thing bothered me, and the other says, there's something fundamentally wrong with who you are. And the research showed that 96% of the time, the way a conversation starts is the way it ends. So if someone opens with that you always or you never energy, the conversation is cooked before it begins. The other person isn't hearing the complaint anymore. They're hearing, you think I'm defective, and now they're either going to fight back or shut down. Horseman number 2, contempt. Out of everything they measured in the lab, contempt is the single best predictor that a couple is headed for a breakup. Nothing else comes close. And contempt doesn't always look like screaming or name-calling. Sometimes it's an eye roll. Sometimes it's that sarcastic, oh wow, really helpful, thank you so much. It's the mocking voice when you repeat back what they just said. It's the little sneer where one corner of the mouth pulls up. You know the face. Here's what contempt actually is at the root. It's superiority. When you're contemptuous, you're looking down at them. You're not frustrated. You're above them, and you want them to know it. Contempt doesn't appear out of thin air. It builds. Every time something bothered you and you swallowed it instead of saying something, it went on a mental scorecard. And after enough entries, you stop seeing a person who sometimes annoys you. You start seeing an annoying person. And the reason contempt is so hard to come back from is that there's no good response to it. If someone complains about something you did, you can fix it. But what do you do when someone looks at you like you're pathetic? Where do you go from there? Third horseman, defensiveness. This one is tricky because it feels so reasonable. Someone comes at you, you defend yourself. That's natural. But what defensiveness actually does is flip the blame back without saying so. Your partner says, you didn't call when you said you would, I was worried. And instead of, you're right, I'm sorry, you go, I was slammed at work, you could have just texted me. Every word of that makes sense, and none of it helps. Because the other person raised something that mattered to them, and it got swatted right back. What the research found is that defensiveness blocks repair, and repair is the thing that actually keeps relationships alive. Those small moments where someone goes, you know what, you're right. That's what functional couples do. Defensiveness makes it impossible, because nobody can fix a problem when both people are too busy proving they didn't cause it. Last one, stonewalling. This is the person who shuts down during a fight, goes quiet, one-word answers, leaves the room. You're pouring your heart out and getting absolutely nothing back. The data showed about 85% of stonewallers were men, and the assumption was always that these guys just didn't care. But here's what the heart rate monitors showed. Their heart rates were through the roof, above 100 beats per minute, palms sweating, stress hormones flooding their system. The body goes into fight or flight. And when that happens, the parts of your brain that handle listening and reasoning go offline. You physically cannot have a productive conversation when your body thinks it's in danger. So the guy sitting there saying nothing isn't thinking, "I don't care." He's barely thinking at all. His nervous system hit the emergency brake. That doesn't make it okay for the other person. Being stonewalled is brutal. You feel invisible. But understanding what's actually happening changes the question from, "Why don't you care about me?" to, "We need to pause this and come back when we've both calmed down." And that's a very different conversation. Okay, so those are the 4 horsemen. But here's one more thing the research found that might be the most important. In happy, stable couples, for every 1 negative interaction, there were 5 positive ones. So if you recognize some of these patterns, the couples who make it aren't the ones who never screw up. They're the ones who know how to come back from it,